Guys, I'm Craig from Carpenter Success Hub. So really appreciate you expressing interest in this event. It's something that we're basically looking to try. What we do normally is run coaching and training for carpenters who are in business. We don't normally run just one-off events, but it's just something that has come up and we thought this would be something that would probably benefit the guys in our programs as well as chippies out there. Because the feedback we're getting is when you are going out on your own, or even when you've been out for a while, it's often a struggle to figure out the quoting system. If I look at my story, I went out on my own very quickly. I started just doing hourly rate for the guys I did my apprenticeship with. I had my first apprentice within a week, like I'd hired him from a trade school. But again, we were still just charged out for hourly rate. And I grew over about 3 months. I ended up with 3 apprentices in that time. But the work we were doing for those first 3 or 4 months was either hourly rate for builders that I knew or had done part of my apprenticeship with. I was doing small jobs for family and friends, whether it was decks, pergolas, renos, and then it was stuff on purchase order. Like it wasn't the lower end volume builders. They were doing nice volume builders with marble benches and things, but it was still a purchase order. Here you go, here's what we're paying you, which was actually honestly a relief because it meant that I knew what I was getting charged. I didn't have to sit there and go, freaking, how much should I charge for this frame and then lock up and fix and deck? They gave me the whole thing laid out. But then it was just weird after doing that for a bit. Some of their houses were big open plan and hardly any doors and hardly any walls. And I got the same for that as I did for these intricate, complicated, split level, up and down, valleys everywhere, complex roofs, the same with decks. Some of them had steps all around them and they'll pay me per square meter of decking. Like it didn't matter if it was flat, single level, or if it had multi-level steps and seats and it was just square meters of decking. It just didn't add up. So I tried to figure out how to do it. So over time, I've developed estimating rates. Now, the story of how we did that basically was, it started from going, well, I need to be making sure the guys are making money on sites as well. That was a big part of trying to, how these came together, and they came together almost together. They came together. Wow, great English, good thinking there, well thought through. I found that, I was going onto site. When I was there, I knew my guys working hard. When I suddenly stepped to multiple crews, it's like, well, okay, you got that much done. Is that good or bad? I wasn't here to check. So go faster, work harder was sort of my motto, which is a bit disheartening for guys who are just like, we did work hard, thanks. So I needed to come up with a way to measure the hours so I could get targets and also so I could quote rates. So even when I was still on the tools with my guys, before I stepped off, we started to just measure the tasks. And we didn't do it with a stopwatch. We didn't do it going, how long does it take to hang this door? Because that doesn't work in the real world. It was at the end of the day, all right, what do we work on? Okay, we're doing a deck. Well, those 2 guys were digging holes for stumps. We started laying bearers, and then at the end of the day, we're framing for steps. You're doing a fit out. I was on doors for the day. About half the day when I was doing entry and glass doors, I grabbed one of the apprentices to help me. So they were on doors for half the time. The rest of them, they were on skirting. The other 2 were on arcs, and then they started on handles, fit outs, whatever. You just roughly record it. And we have then turned that into a sheet that all of our crews would use to go, right, how many hours on each aspect of the job based off our quote sheet. Now, that gave us hours that we could feed back in from real time. Because if you're doing ground floor walls, you don't have to go, well, who was doing pre-cut and what about materials delivery? All that stuff's included. Okay, we got there and we did ground floor walls for 3 days. Well, that's going to include your mark out, your materials, and then someone doing the pre-cut, doing your straightening, your brace, etc. When the posies arrive, if you can get them craned onto the walls, awesome. It's including your mark out, all of that time just gets recorded in there. And if there's fuck around where you can never cut a posie, but you've got to cut the posie and redo it to move it or whatever, that gets included. You're not just working off freaking laboratory conditions, let's say, where it's like, well, this is how long it should take. This is how long it actually took walking around in the mud, lifting shit up, in the heat, whatever it may be. And we got feedback. So all of our rates started to come together as how many man hours did a task take. To frame a linear meter of wall, end up taking up to 2.7 meters, so up to 1 row of nogs basically, was I can tell off the top of my head takes 0.848 of a man hour. Now, by doing it that way, we could then charge whatever our average company man hour rate was. So if we hired more qualifieds, more apprentices, the rate changes, the pays go up, etc. It doesn't matter what I'm paying the guys. It's going to take them the same amount of time to frame, straighten, brace, set out a lineal metre of wall. And it's not just, again, lab conditions of a lineal metre. It's going to how many hours were in this ground floor of this house, and then add up the lineal metres of walls. Okay, there's 221 lineal metres divided by the hours, bang. It's total average hours. Over time, once we got bigger and we're doing more and more and more, especially with doing materials, we needed to get more specific than that. So the rates I've got are like, walls up to 1.5 metre, and then 1.5 to 2.7, 2.7, etc. And then for each type, it'll be 90-35, 90-45, 90-35 at 600 centres, 90-45 at 600 centres, 450 centres. Every different timber type, every different height. Some of them, the labour rates don't really change much. 90-45 at 600 centres versus 90-35 at 600 centres, it takes bugger all difference. Really, the only difference is that you might be able to carry 5 studs to the pre-cut bench instead of 6 at a time. It doesn't make enough of a difference to be measurable. But your timber costs you more if you're supplying it. So we've got labour and material rates. So our materials are based off what we call recipes. So in the back end, it goes, right, well, here's how many studs, which is how many linear meters of timber, how many linear meters of nogs in real world terms, not with, well, let's figure out what it should be. It's going, well, how much timber did we order for temp braces? How much timber did we order for top plates, bottom plates? And yeah, there's going to be some left over and used for other things, but you always have that there. And that's the way you do it in real world ordering. But it meant that what we could do is go and change the timber price. So if there's a timber shortage and your lineal metre price goes up, you don't have to go, well, I'm charging $31 a lineal metre of 90-45, 2.4 wall at 450 centres. How much of that is nails? How much is ply brace? How much is hoop iron? How much is whatever? And how much of it is actually my pine? You just go and change your pine prices. That nearly took me out. You just go and change your pine prices, and bang, your recipe updates, and away you go. So that's how these prices have been developed. My business was called Dynamic Developments. I started it in residential. Over time, we started to do non-unionised commercial, and that's what we ended up doing exclusively over time. So we never did big EBA sites, but we do sites that had, you'd go and do 100 houses for one person who wanted to have it all, rather than sending them out, or 90 apartments in a building, or a lot more cladding and things. So it was just bigger projects, but the same stuff, just bigger sites. And we still did everything. We did framing, lock-up, fix, decking, cladding, and in things like where we'd take, someone's gone and bought, like the most recent was an old mental hospital that got demolished and bought by a developer, and they wanted to build 500 houses, and one company said, right, we'll build 100 of them, and they engaged us to do all the carpentry on those. So it was 100 sets of domestic cladding, domestic posies, etc., versus sometimes the 93 apartments was all timber framed, without being load bearing, because it's all between concrete suspended slabs. But we've got the prices for all of that. That's how it got developed. In these 3 days, I'm going to show you everything. We're going to just pre-give you the rates. So we will show you how to use an online estimating software. If you're already using it, don't worry, there'll be other things that you can cover in that time, but so you're up to speed with that, and especially the critical points, making sure you always scale those drawings or all your estimates are fucked. So we'll show you all of that, and then we'll take you through how to build the quote using our rates, how we got those rates, and so you can go and update them. But most of the time you go and start with a bit of estimating software and they're like, yeah, build your rates over time. It might take you a lot of effort, but in 9 months it'll be awesome, it'll be worth the work. But like, shit, that's a lot of work. We're jumping you ahead 9 months from where our rates were based on Victorian, non-unionised, residential and commercial carpentry. You may have a more efficient crew, you may have a less efficient crew, you may have to change things. You may go, look, we're guns at decking, we're not as good at these types of cladding, so you change the prices, go for it. But I will show you how to do that, and then all the prices will be spinning you an estimate in number of hours to take, and then we'll take you through how you work out your average man hour, including factoring in leaves, superannuation, work cover, your portable superannuation, and then factoring in all your overheads, the cost for time that you're quoting, your travels, all of that. Spit out a rate for each individual that you've got, whether they subby, apprentice, a chippy, and then add your profit margin, add any contingency, and you get an average across your team of what you will be costing, including making your target profit margin per hour, and you just times it by that. So if you quote this frame and it comes out as 131 hours, you times that by your average man-hour rate, including your profit markup, there's your quote price, right? And we'll show you how to do all of that. We're also going to run you through how to check, not just do it yourself. Doing the takeoffs is slow and painful, so it's the perfect thing to be outsourcing. We ended up over time, not only did I hire estimators because I didn't want to be sitting there at nights at quoting, I wanted someone to do that for me. Over time, we were able to outsource that to a full-time offshore estimating team. We had one person in our office as our head estimator. We had 7 people working for us exclusively offshore who we had recruited, trained, and we managed doing our quoting around the world. And I'll show you how we did that. And then the tricks to checking other people's work, because if you get the takeoffs done, they will miss shit, right? They will absolutely miss shit. And no matter how good they are, people always miss stuff. Because even our in-house estimators, honestly, even you will miss stuff. I missed stuff. And in fact, we are probably more prone to missing stuff than the estimators, because we've got a million things to do. We're running a business. We've got to go fast. They can go slow at a speed that feels like watching paint dry to get every little detail, right? So they will actually get more than we will, certainly than I will, as my personality was, fuck, I've got a lot on, I've got little sleep, I've got to get a million things done today, I need to just smash out this quote as well. They were far more accurate than me. But to go over and review the stuff they've done, so I can see at a glance where they may have missed things because of a lack of experience and understanding rather than a lack of time taken, right? And that experience is expensive. To get a chippy who has got the experience to know those things is probably at a leading hand level, or a supervisor level, supervising multiple crews. They are very costly. We want you to be able to get a junior estimator in and teach them to do this stuff, and then you review and get the last 5 or 10% of stuff that experience brings, right? You can pay them 60 grand rather than 120 plus grand. So that's what we'll be looking at that too. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. Have a look at the list. It's in the last email. Have a look at the landing page. At this stage, it's just an expression of interest. We've had heaps of interest in the first week, and we didn't even send out any of these emails, so now I'm just setting up so this will come through automatically. If you already expressed your interest in the first week leading up to Christmas, you'll get this now. We're planning on putting the first lot of tickets on sale probably the 7th or 8th of Jan, to give us time to know that we've got to get everything set up for those events in late Feb and March, depending on which one. We are going to release the first 35 tickets at $2,200. That will make it viable for us to travel with a small team up there and break even if we have to. So those tickets will be released at that price. Once those 35 are gone, they're going up. Even the expression of interest people will be at $2,700. General public will be $3,300. With the level of interest we've had in a week, which I checked this morning, it's like 117 expressions of interest, plus the guys already in our program who are keen, I'm pretty confident we're going to sell these out, maximum 100 per event. So keep an eye out. We'll let you know what the interest is looking like as we get closer, but it will be only those first tickets. I'm not going to go back and re-discount them, so it's first in, best dressed. All right, I hope to see you in either Sydney or Gold Coast.